Angel Reese was supposed to be the Chicago Sky's cornerstone, the player around whom a franchise could rebuild its identity. Instead, she's quickly becoming the embodiment of everything that can derail a locker room. The promise of the Sky. Barbie era has curdled into frustration, suspensions, and public betrayals that teammates and fans alike won't forget. What began as hype has now spiraled into one of the most chaotic storylines in the WNBA. It started with a suspension. Reese's accumulation of technical fouls, capped by a reckless play against Aaliyah Edwards that earned her an automatic 1-game ban, forced her out of the Sky's most anticipated matchup against Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever. Fans had circled that game for months, but Reese's inability to control her emotions on the court turned it into another stain on her reputation. The suspension was one thing, but the pattern was worse. Reese wasn't just fiery, she was undisciplined, and the league's patience was running thin. Then came the back injury. A mysterious ailment that kept her off the floor and, more damningly, away from her teammates. Unlike Clark, who remained glued to her fever bench during her own struggles, cheering, guiding, and motivating, Reese disappeared entirely. She didn't travel. She didn't visibly support her team. Fans noticed, but more importantly, so did her teammates. For a franchise desperate for stability, their supposed leader was absent when they needed her most. If that wasn't enough, Reese decided to take her frustrations public. In a Chicago Tribune feature, she didn't mince words. "Players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me." She openly questioned the roster's talent, suggesting Rachel Bannum and Haley Van Lith weren't good enough to build around, and casting doubt on whether Courtney Vandersloot could contribute given her age. This wasn't constructive criticism. It was a knife across the locker room's unspoken code of solidarity. Vandersloot, a 2-time champion and 5-time All-Star, responded with quiet fury. "My age is absolutely not a factor," she shot back. "I'm coming back better than ever." It wasn't just defiance. It was dignity reclaiming its space. Vandersloot had sacrificed for Chicago, carried the torch when others left, and now she was being dismissed by someone who hadn't even proven she could lead a team without imploding. Ariel Atkins, who was acquired in a bold trade that cost Chicago. The 3rd overall pick walked into the middle of this mess. The Sky's front office had gambled big, reshaping the roster specifically around Reese, only to watch her undermine the very players brought in to help her. Atkins, known for her professionalism, handled the situation with grace, defending her teammates and focusing on unity. Her words stood in stark contrast to Reese's divisive tone. One player looked like a leader, the other like a liability. Rachel Bannum had no interest in playing peacekeeper. Exhausted by years of league drama, she brushed it off bluntly. "I think I just don't really care. I'm so over all this." That wasn't indifference. That was the sound of a veteran sick of carrying someone else's baggage. Bannum wasn't going to waste her energy cleaning up Reese's mess, and she wasn't alone. Behind the scenes, a players-only meeting took place. The subject, Angel Reese. Teammates had defended her for months, overlooked her missed layups, forgiven her turnover sprees, even covered for her suspensions. But once she turned the spotlight on them with cutting public remarks, the shield was gone. They weren't going to let her drag their names through the mud while she refused to acknowledge her own shortcomings, and those shortcomings were glaring. Despite missing weeks of action, Reese somehow managed to lead the league in turnovers. Her offensive game was raw at best, sloppy at worst, and her finishing around the rim was a running joke among opposing fans. Ariel Atkins had stood at podiums, defending Reese's struggles, and yet Reese offered no such loyalty in return. Instead, she demanded upgrades, as if the roster's flaws were the only thing keeping Chicago from contention. The Sky front office finally stepped in, suspending Reese for statements detrimental to the team. That phrase alone speaks volumes. Organizations don't use that language unless they want the message clear. The player has become a bigger problem than the opponents on the schedule. And once the suspension hit, the cracks in Reese's image split wide open. Here's the irony. When Reese wasn't on the floor, Chicago often looked better. The ball moved cleaner, the offense flowed, and the locker room energy lightened. Without her demanding touches and coughing up possessions, the Sky played freer. Rachel Bannum admitted she didn't care anymore. A coded way of saying the team didn't miss Reese's drama. The contrast with Caitlin Clark only deepened. Clark, despite her own battles with injuries, never abandoned her team. She sat on the bench, coached from the sideline, celebrated her teammates' success, and embodied, the kind of leadership fans want to root for. Reese, on the other hand, disappeared